Quiz 18 is all about integral application problems, and the first problem we're seeing here is they want us to find the area of the shaded region. So we're looking to find the area of that little shaded region right there and that shaded region right there. Whenever we need to find, basically what we're looking at is the area between two curves here. This is an integral setup, and then once we have it set up, we can just plug it into our calculator and get out our final answer. So what this setup always looks like is it'll be the integral from a to b of whichever equation is the upper equation, or the equation on top, minus the lower equation, or whichever equation is on bottom. So the upper equation minus the lower equation. Really, this is just going to be top bottom is what you want to say to yourself. And our bounds up here are generally going to be where those two graphs intersect each other, because that's what's going to close the region off on either side. Looking at our problem, they kind of throw us into a little bit of a deep end here to begin with, instead of just giving us a basic example, because we have these two regions. So my first region is very small, but what we can talk about is we've got a g of x graph, which is this blue graph right here, which on yours, it's probably hard to see, but there is a blue graph just cutting right across the x-axis right there. So that's one of our graphs. And then our second graph is this pink graph, this F graph. So mine cuts down a little right there and then cuts back up and then comes around. So our second graph is the F graph right there. So in this first area, in area number 1 right here, that little area, in that little area, my blue equation is the upper equation. It's on top. It's above where the pink equation is. And the pink equation is my lower equation. And so that'll be one setup. What changes and makes us have to do a second setup is once we get past that point right there, the pink equation is now on top and the blue equation is on bottom. The pink equation is now the upper equation and the blue equation is now the lower equation. So their position changed, so we have to do a second setup. So we'll do two setups, one for that first area and then a second one for that second area. And in the end, we'll just add those results to get ourselves our final answer. So starting with area number 1 right there, we would be doing our integral from, and where it begins, again, it's kind of hard to tell on here when you read these little graphs, but this would be -1 right there is where they first run into each other, and then 0 right there would be where they run into each other again. So I'd have a lower limit of -1 and upper limit of 0. My upper equation in this situation, the top equation, like we said, is that blue line right there. So my blue line equation is my g of x equation. So it would be upper and then minus, always in parentheses, whatever that lower equation is. And in area 1, that pink equation is cutting down below the graph there. So the lower equation is my f equation, which is 4x plus 3x squared minus x cubed. And then technically at the end of this thing, we have a dx right there. So that's my area 1, and I'm going to add that to my area 2 over here. So we start the same way, we go integral, and then this time my bounds, my area is starting now here at 0, and it's ending right there at 2. And so our lower bound, the smaller number is 0, the larger number is 2. And then putting pieces in to our formula up here, our upper equation in this situation, the one on top, is that f equation. So the upper equation is our 4x plus 3x squared minus x cubed. And then we're going to subtract off of that our lower equation, which in this situation is our blue line right there, which is our g of x graph, which is really just subtracting 0. And then dx. So now we have our two setups, and once we have our two setups in place, then this is a pretty straightforward process here. We're just going to take this first equation, we're going to plug that into y1 on our calculator. We'll graph it. And then we'll do a second calc. And inside that calc menu, we'll choose number 7, which is the integral of f of x dx button. From there, it's going to ask us for a lower limit and an upper limit. Our lower limit is always going to be the smaller value here, and the upper limit that they want us to type in will be that value up top. We'll do it once for graph 1. We'll get a question out. We'll do it again over here, the exact same process. We will then take that and plug that into y1, graph it, and do another second calc, and then again choose number 7 in that calc menu, the integral of f of x dx, and then we'll have a lower of 0 and an upper of 2 for the limits that they want us to plug in. And once we get those two results out of there, we will just add those two results to get the total shaded area here. So pulling up our calculator, moving it out of the way so we can see what we're doing. So the first integral we're going to be doing is we go to the y equals and we type in that 0 minus, always in parentheses, and then 4x plus 3x squared, and then minus x to the third. Close that, and now we'll graph that equation. Oops, I've got my parentheses in the wrong place. Close that, graph that equation, and then we're going to hit second, and then we'll choose the calc menu up top there, and then go down to number 7 here, integral of f of x dx, hit enter on that. It's again going to ask us for the lower limit first, so the lower limit is that bottom number, the smaller number, so we type in our -1, hit enter. Then it's going to ask you for an upper limit. The upper limit is that larger number, which is 0 this time, so type in 0 and hit enter. And out of there, you'll see at the top it says integral of f of x dx equals 0.75. So right now, if it wasn't just a simple little decimal and you needed to get it as a fraction, you can come in and go math and then number 1 frac right now. And it's going to grab our answer. Our answer is that 0.75 that we saw. And so it'll turn that into 3 over 4 for us. So we have 3 over 4 right here. And then now we're going to go back into our y equals and we'll do the second part of this. So we'll do equation number 2 over here. So go to our y equals. I can really just delete that 0 off. And then technically, just so that we know what it looks like, this would be minus 0 here, but you don't really need that. We graph it, and we go through our same steps. Second, calc, and then number 7, integral of f of x dx. Our lower limit this time is 0, the smaller number, and then our upper limit this time was 2. And from there, we can see at the bottom of the screen that we get out the value of 12. So for this, we get 12. And now for our final answer, we just want to add those two values to each other. So I would go to my normal screen. I do 3 divided by 4, and then I'm going to do plus 12. Hit enter. And then I'll do my math frac because this question says type an integer or simplified fraction. And then out of there, we end up getting out 51 over 4. So our answer to this would have been 51 over 4.